Diamond ring.
Hey, hey, if you here to see the Clippers, make some noise. Who that? Talking about who that? Staples the center around here.
Welcome to our first edition of Clippers Playoff Roundtable. The Clippers are starting their first round playoff series against the Memphis Grizzlies, this time at home. But this series is a bit of deja vu, guys, don't you think?
I can't wait because you have two teams that are mirror images of each other, literally same records, 56 and 26. They have the same home records, 32 and 9, the same road records, 24 and 17. They have the background of last year, but what's interesting about this series and what gives it a whole new dimension is both teams are a lot different than they were last season for a variety of reasons.
And it's funny that the differences do stand out a little bit. The Clippers bench this year with Jamal Crawford, Matt Barnes. Memphis's bench has been completely retooled with the Rudy Gay trade particularly. And then mentioning Rudy Gay, he's not there. Tayshaun Prince comes in, which adds a more of a maybe defensive element that fits in a little bit better than Rudy Gay did, but it also takes away a little bit of their scoring.
Now you talk about, the element that Memphis has. One of the things is physicality, too. They are a very physical team, and last year the Clippers limped into and out of that 7-game series. This year, though, they're going into it much more healthy from top to bottom. And with that depth and that health, how much of a benefit is it going to be for this Clippers team this season?
I think it's a huge difference because, as you guys remember, last year the Clippers literally limped in, having lost 3 of their last 4 games to Phoenix and then Atlanta and New York, and that winds up costing them the home court advantage last season. But this year, they're as healthy as I think they could possibly be going into the postseason. And because of that physicality, I can't wait for the matchup out front with Zach Randolph and Blake Griffin, and then Marc Gasol and DeAndre Jordan. Because if we examine the last 2 games played between the Grizzlies and the Clippers, now the Clippers beat them handily last week at FedEx Forum, but back in March, the Grizzlies beat the Clippers handily at Staples Center, especially in the second half. What was interesting, guys, about both of those games, in the second half of the game at Staples Center, the Clippers completely had the game dictated to them by the Grizzlies, and Marc Gasol especially. Then the game at FedEx Forum, it was the exact opposite. The Clippers dictated it from start to finish, and it was DeAndre Jordan who had the big game.
Well, that's why I think DeAndre Jordan is the person that probably needs to give the most consistent effort. I mean, I think he's like the X factor, for lack of a better term. I mean, his matchup with Gasol to me is the most interesting because the game that he scored 16 and 12 in Memphis, I mean, he's the difference in the game. He blocked a shot, a Mike Conley floater at the end, and I mean, I think that he changes the game dramatically.
And you said the word. I talked to Caron Butler today after practice, and one of the things he said that's going to be the key for this Clippers team to make it through the playoffs is consistency. You said it with DeAndre Jordan, but not just with him, with this whole team. Caron referenced the Dallas Mavericks team that he was on. He wasn't playing because of his knee injury, but he saw them go through the process, through the playoffs, to that championship run. And he said the key factor was consistency. Do you guys agree with that?
Absolutely. And, Madeline, you bring up the parallels between this year and last year. Now, last year we have the Clippers bench, guys like at the time Reggie Evans and Kenyon Martin and Mo Williams and Nick Young. They had outstanding performances in the Memphis series, particularly in games 1 and 7. But as a whole, this year's Lob Mob is way more consistent
You
on
love
a
that
whole.
nickname.
I know. I've been kind of the main proponent of the Lob Mob on the radio side ever since the start of the season. Probably should have copyrighted it, I guess, now in hindsight. Not
Put a
very
little
good.
C with
what
a
a
circle
mistake.
in
Not
there.
very good business on my part, but everybody on the Lob Mob has been so consistent throughout the course of the regular season. And, we talk about the Clippers starting 43 and 18, and then they have this little lull that was really concerning to me. And we talked about it at times during that stretch where they went 6 and 8, and the Memphis loss on March 16th was one of those games. And now they close the season on a 7-game winning streak, and I think they have that consistency back, especially by the reserves.
Well, I think that started with the intensity. I mean, Blake Griffin has been a big proponent of that, especially during this 7-game winning streak, that they're back to playing with this sort of intense defense, intense focus offensively. Chris the other day was talking about we're not getting off to these 10-0 holes like they did against Indiana on April 1st or a 6-0 hole. It's been actually the opposite. I mean, like 3 out of the last 4 games, they've gotten off to a 6-0 start or an 8-0 start, which is it's kind of propelled them from that intensity standpoint the rest of the game.
Now, starting off the playoffs at home this year, very different than starting on the road in Memphis. Winning these home games, how important is that, or what do you see from these next 2 home games to start the series?
Well, home court advantage doesn't do you any good if you lose one of the 2, right?
Right.
I think that there's a lot of pressure on the Clippers to win game 1, frankly, to come out and kind of set the tone for the series. A group of reporters were all standing around today after practice, and it was all kind of agreed upon between everybody that the pressure really is on the Clippers to not lose home court the way Memphis did last season.
Obviously, home court is preferable, but at the same time, you have to be extra careful because when you're at home, you have your routine, you have the rest of your life. When you're on the road, you really have nothing to focus on but the game. And we saw what happened last year when the Clippers came in and stole Game 1 and later, of course, won Game 7 on the road. So it's something that you're glad to have, but you have to be very guarded about getting too not overconfident, but too comfortable being at home and treating it as just another game. It's so familiar instead of what it is, the first game of the playoffs.
Well, the Memphis Grizzlies will arrive in Los Angeles Friday afternoon. Game 1, Clippers-Grizzlies, is Saturday night at Staples Center. You guys looking forward to it?
Oh, I can't wait. At Bart Scott voice, maybe.
I've been penciled in for some minutes as backup point guard, so we'll see.
Penciled in.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. Isaac Lowenkron from KFWB 980 AM, Eric Patton from Clippers.com, and Madeline Burke for LAC TV. We'll see you next time.